So today, I'm gonna talk about why I chose to be a surrogate. Yeah, we're gonna dig into that today. Also, I'm gonna talk about why I chose the agency I'm with now and why I switched from the agency I first chose in the beginning. So let's get right into the video. So, question number 1. Why did I decide to be a surrogate? So, the reason I decided to be a surrogate makes no sense because when I first even heard about what a surrogate was, I didn't like it. I thought it was crazy. I thought there was no way someone could be a surrogate. There's no way, someone can have a baby for someone else and not feel some type of, emotional connection or bond, And that's basically what I thought. So before I even became a surrogate or looked into surrogacy, I wanted to be an egg donor. There was something about it that kind of drew me to it. I liked the idea of helping someone else, be able to have a baby, but the only thing I was always going back and forth in my mind about was the fact that the baby would be genetically connected to me. And, I found this one place and I ended up signing the papers and I was like, you know what, I think it'll be okay. I think even if there was someone with my genetic DNA, they look like me a little or some whatever, I like the idea that I'd be helping a family that couldn't have a baby. And I made sure to put on my paper, at least if the child ever wanted to speak to me in person or find me, I was 100% open. That was my only thing. Like, I really wanted to at least know you if you wanted to know me and you had any questions about me. I like that openness. So the thing with that is, I think I was waiting for them to match me, and it literally was like 4 months and not one person wanted to match with me. And I kind of knew walking in that because I was black, clearly, I might not get chosen as much because they said that they were mostly, people who were looking for Caucasian baby, egg donors or Mexican baby egg donors. But yeah, so eventually I started this new job and I don't know why I was looking for another egg donor website, and most egg donor websites are connected with surrogacy websites. Sorry, could not say that word. And I ended up running across surrogacy again, and I was like, you know what, this is so crazy, but I'm just gonna look at the process because I'm so curious. Like, what do they even have to do? How do they even make the baby outside the body? And how does everything work? And so once I started diving into all the information, I realized that there were 2 different types of surrogates. There is a traditional and a gestational, like I told you in the last video. So I read up on the traditional, and that's basically like the same thing as me being the egg donor, but like I'm the carrier and the egg donor, And I was like, no, there's no way I could ever have a baby physically on my own and be connected to it by DNA and not, be bonded or feel like I could give it away, at the end of the journey. And then I looked at gestational and, I was so curious because I'm like, oh, so basically I'd just be a carrier. I'm not doing anything but carrying the baby for this couple, man or woman or whatever. So I was like, wow, that's really crazy that you could do that. So I ended up looking at different sites and I ran across videos as well because I was curious to see people's journeys because, on YouTube there's videos about everything and anything. So I ended up thinking, okay, I'm gonna try to follow people's journeys and stuff and see if I find any interest. And I was making notes and everything. I was so curious. I had all the questions. So I was making notes and I ended up running across this one girl's video, and she had multiple videos for her journey, and she was a gestational carrier, and I really liked everything about her video. I liked the process she was going through. It seemed pretty simple for the most part, and I liked how she explained everything that she was going through. So I ended up saying, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna take a chance and I'm going to go to a website. And so I went to this one website. It's the agency was Art Parenting, and so I went there and I did the first little inquiry questionnaire, which is basically asking your height, your weight, your BMI, your birthday, how many children you have, because you have to have had one successful pregnancy at least to be a carrier of any type, because they don't want you to, they want to know your history. They want to know how your first pregnancy went. They want to know, you know, were you able to carry with no issues? Did you have high blood pressure? You know, anything. Did you have a C-section? All type of stuff. So they were asking like little things like that. And so then after that, I got an email basically saying, okay, hey, we saw your questionnaire and we want to talk to you on the phone. So I did a phone interview with this lady, and I will still say till this day, she was just the sweetest, most energetic lady I've ever met. And her name was Julie. She was so, so nice. And, you know, she was the first reason I even wanted to, you know, pick this agency, because I realized later on there are tons of different agencies out there for surrogacy now. But she was just so sweet and kind, and there were so many questions she asked me, from what do I do to do I smoke, do I drink, you know, how old my son is, and all this type of stuff. And so after that, over the phone interview basically, she was asking me to do this long questionnaire. And this is where I'm going to start going through my timeline, because I basically made a timeline so you can see like the time it took me just to get to this point I'm at now. And I'm not even kidding, it's been 12 months from the old agency that I was with before, Art Parenting, to the one I'm with now. It's been 12 months to get to this. So, alright. So in the beginning of my timeline, I did the application and the OB questionnaire. So the OB questionnaire is basically asking your BMI, your weight, are you healthy, can you have a baby right now, and your OB has to sign it and say if they have any extra comments or whatever. But my OB signed it, no issue. And then the application is so long. It is so detailed. It asks you about your family, it asks you about your grandparents, it asks you about your brothers, your sisters, like their hair color, their eye color, their height, their weight, all type of stuff. You know, it asks you, it has specific things also for surrogacy. So would you carry twins? Would you carry triplets? You know, would you be open to having a male intended parent, a female intended parent, like single? And then would you be open for a gay couple? All types of questions were on there. It was long. It was like very long to go through, but I got through it pretty quick. I really liked going through it. Actually, I was so excited, you know, to be getting into the process and everything. And I had tons of questions for her all the time. And after I finished my application, well, okay, so for my application, I got it May 16th. And I finished it on May 22nd. And this is 2018. May 22nd, 2018. And so I gave her my OB questionnaire signed and everything May 30th. So after that, they got my medical records. So when you are a surrogate, they request, they have you allow them to get your medical records from your pregnancy, so they can see if your whole history is clear, you didn't have anything wrong with you, you didn't have, you know, any issues giving birth, you didn't have birth really early and everything like that. So they ended up finally getting them. I sent them out June 4th. 2018. I'm gonna keep doing that so you see this long this long timeline. Okay, so after that, they cleared me for my medical records. Everything went well, because of course I had a perfect pregnancy outside my son sitting in my right crevice all the time. But so after that, I had a psychological exam, and it was a questionnaire. There's two types. There's on the phone and the questionnaire. I had that one June 20th. That one, oh, with this one though, I had it together. I had to go to an actual psychiatrist and talk to her, and that was so weird. I felt like the whole time she was asking me questions almost to try to trip me up to see if I would contradict myself, and I didn't, but I could tell that she was really trying to see if I was determined to do this no matter what circumstances she threw at me, because of course with surrogacy, you have to realize you can pass away, things can happen. You know, that's why you have a contract. You got to understand you can lose fallopian tubes, you can lose your whole uterus, everything, you know. Anything can happen, you know. So they like to help you be like aware of all that stuff before you get into this, because you don't know how you react to meds, you don't understand how you react to the transfer, or what can happen in the pregnancy, which any pregnancy is a risk in general, especially if you have more than one baby, which I am open to. So yeah, so I did that, and the questionnaire I got after I talked to her, it was, I think, 500 something questions, and it was insane. But it was really well written. So if you were lying, especially about depression, they had a lot of stuff in there about depression. And if you ever had any mental illness, if you were lying, you would get tripped up, because there were so many things that went back to another question. So if you answered this question a certain way, this answer over here wouldn't make sense. So I passed that with flying colors, and I got my results the same day. I met with her, June 20th. And so after that, okay, so this is where my issues started happening, because when I first talked to Julie, I told her from the beginning, I know that this is a small agency. I know you guys don't have tons of people, because big agencies, they have tons of case managers, tons of people to talk to you, help you through your process. This place was more small. So I was like, I understand that. All I care about, and all I will care about, is communication and honesty. That's it. That's all I care about. I want you to be able to tell me what's going on, and I'm going to be fine with whatever answer, as long as you're telling me what's happening. So she told me after I finished my psychological exam that I will be able to get matched. And it wouldn't take me long, because there's tons of IPs and they don't have a lot of surrogates. So I was like, cool. So I was waiting from June 20th to August 16th, which doesn't seem like a long time, but it does when they tell you, oh, you'll be matched in 2 weeks. And then when I messaged her 2 weeks later, she would tell me, oh, I'm sorry, my boss, who actually does the matchmaking, isn't here. Then a week later, I would say, okay, she's back, I'm sure. So what's happening? Because I would like communication. And she would say, she still hasn't looked at it yet. She'll get to it. And it just kept being like that. So I think around August 13th, I kind of got this mindset, I'm going to go back to researching. I'm going to go back and look at my choices, because I didn't like the fact that I was being stuck in a position of not knowing, and I felt like they weren't really taking me serious as a surrogate. Like, they were just like, okay, there's another one. We don't really have to bother working on her case or whatever. So I started researching, looking at way too many videos. I looked at so many videos on YouTube. I don't even think there's new ones for me to look at. And I ended up talking to 3 different other agencies. And this was before I signed anything with Art Parenting saying that I'm with them only or whatever, because I wasn't even matched yet. So I ended up talking to 3 different other agencies. I didn't like 2 of them, because the communication automatically, I can tell it wasn't there, and I didn't like that. And the last one that I'm with now, I can't speak on the name, but this agency I loved from the first time I talked to Danielle. She was so nice and so understanding, and so at that time I needed explanation on everything. So she explained everything, the whole process that I would go through, the best way she possibly could. And she gave me estimates on everything. She gave me understanding. And she said she would help me through everything. And once I got my case manager will be helping me as well with everything. And I appreciated that so much, because that's all I was looking for, is someone to communicate with me and let me know what's going on before I have to, like, you know, constantly basically nag you to get updates. And so around August 13th, I had my last email with Julie, and I basically said, you know, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to leave this agency. I don't think this is the right fit for me. And literally the next day, she said, "I'm sorry to hear that." And then she said, "Are you sure you don't want to come back? My owner, who just, she just found a match for you." And I was honestly a little stuck in between if I wanted to go back or not, just because it was like, oh gosh, I won't even have to wait for this other agency to go through all the steps again, because you have to start from scratch, sending all your information, all that stuff. But there was something in me telling me that it just wasn't a fit for me, because the communication wasn't good from the start. I didn't want to go into it, dealing with that type of relationship where I had to wonder when I was going to be told something. So I just said no, and I just went on my way to this new agency. And so this is the timeline from there. So basically, I did my inquiry with them on the 13th. And that was, like I said, this small question: your age, BMI, such and such. So she ended up sending me on August 13th everything that you have to give them, which was the profile with pictures of me and my family, which was 5 to 7 pictures, a driver's license, front and back of insurance card, surrogacy agreement, which is basically you saying you're with them. So I get this one from the get-go saying, don't talk to other agencies because you're with me. So I signed that, an authorization form, and most 3 recent pay stubs. So, yeah. And the application, which was the long thing I told you. You have to fill out about your entire life, basically. If you're sick with anything, it's gonna know. So, yeah. So that's what I had to fill out after that. And that one was easier. And what I loved about this agency too was Danielle from the beginning gave me her cell phone number. So when I was sending her all this stuff, I didn't have to go through faxing. I didn't have to go through mailing. All I had to do was take a screenshot of everything or a picture of everything after I signed it, and I was done with that step. So it was just, the communication was just there. I love that it was open and I had a number I can go to. I didn't have to rely on the hours of the agency, to talk to basically a case manager or anyone to know what's happening. She said anytime I can send her something, even if she doesn't respond, she'll answer, and I love that. So that was all August 13th. So after I finished my paperwork, it was August 20th. So I had sent everything to her through text, and she had received all my medical stuff. I had sent her the papers and everything, and passed everything. Flying colors, I passed everything. And so I met my case manager that's going to be with me through my entire process, August 21st. And her name's Abby, and I promise you, she is the best case manager ever. I don't even need to meet another one because she's just so awesome. And I'm going to pause right now just to say, I'm sorry this video is so long. I'm talking a lot, but there's a lot of stuff that's happened. So let's keep going. Okay, so I had 2 potential matches after I got through everything. And the first one I had was a couple. They were a little older, and they basically, the only issue we had was they wanted me to be in California, and I don't live in California. I live in Illinois, and I don't think they looked at my profile enough at first, because they said yes to having a video chat with me through this app called WeChat, which is how most people communicate if you have an Asian IP, intended parent. Because it's easier. You can text, and if they don't understand English, it can convert it, translate it into English or whatever language they speak. It can convert it. So yeah, so I had her and her husband, and they ended up saying no before we actually spoke video called, because they realized I lived in Illinois. The second person I got was a very interesting story. So apparently there was a guy, he had 2 parents, and they wanted to basically get their son a surrogate so that he can have a baby, because he had a mental illness, and it was just really nice. I thought it was so beautiful, actually, their story, because it was just so interesting to me. But they actually ended up saying no as well because I don't live in California and it would be too much, because for the process of surrogacy, most people have their embryos already made in California, because it's just a lot of places in California that do that for you. And so a lot of times they don't want to pay when you have to come to medical screening and when you have to go to transfer for your flight, you know, your bags, your hotel, your food. You have to pay for all that stuff as the intended parent. So I fully understood. So after that second person, I was a little sad for like 2 seconds, not gonna lie, because I had a lot of hope that that one was gonna go well. And then they were just like, oh no, never mind. And I was like, okay. But right after that, I got my amazing, amazing, amazing IP. And he is the best. I can honestly say he's absolute best. And I found my match on November 8th, 2018. Yeah, we're still in 2018. So, and then once you find your match, you have a written psych eval. And when you find your match, you have to do the video chat. So I did that with the translator. And so he barely spoke English, but he tried. He said like a sentence at least. And it was just the most adorable thing ever, him trying. But we basically were on the same page about everything. We didn't have any issues. We were very understanding. So it just went great. It was just so awesome. So November 9th, I had my written psych eval. Again, I had the long questionnaire. There's like 560 questions. And it was basically the same thing as the last one, but I think this was even more questions than the last one. But it was easy to get through. I passed that easy. And then, so also, I didn't know this until I got here. The way you get paid through surrogacy, for most agencies, they use a seed trust account, which is basically like a middleman. So it's not him or her sending you the money directly. It's the IP putting the money into the seed trust account, and then there's someone who works the seed trust account based off of your contract and based off, you know, what you agreed to, dispersing it correctly. So there's no ill will happening, which I thought was so cool. I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. So yeah, that was November 12th. And then I talked to my lawyer that the intended parent also pays for the first time on November 13th. So I signed the legal services agreement November 16th, which is basically agreeing that my lawyer will be the one representing me in my contract, and she'll be the one helping me with my part of the contract. So after that, on that same day, actually, I had my psych eval call, which was way different than my first psych eval conversation with the therapist, with the psychologist. Can't talk. With the psychologist, because it was fast. It was not even like 5 minutes and she was off the phone. She was just like, are you sure you want to have these many babies? You're okay with 2 babies if he decides to want 2 babies? I'm like, yes. There's no changes in your life? No. Are you excited to do this? Yes. Like, it was literally simple questions. Past that, like that. And so then there is the medical screening, which is when you have to fly out to California and get checked for everything. So you get blood tests to check for everything down the list. Make sure you don't have any diseases, any, viruses, anything wrong. And they do basically a vaginal ultrasound to look at your ovaries and everything and see how you look inside. And that's also basically how they tell how much medication that they're going to end up giving you through all the tests that they do with your blood as well. So I had that done. The only thing was, when I had my medical screening, I guess he saw something wrong with my right ovary and he was a little worried. So he made me do another ultrasound when I came back home just to, make sure nothing was wrong. And nothing was wrong. It was just a really quick extra ultrasound I had to do. And so I had my medical screening appointment set. I made it on December 4th, and my actual medical screening was December 13th. So I flew out there December 12th by myself. That was one I did by myself, which I've never done before. But it was so nice and so awesome. It was beautiful there, and everybody was nice. at the office, so it was really nice. And so I had that ultrasound to check my ovary December 19th, and everything was perfectly fine. So after that, I was medically cleared on January 10th, and yes, it took that long. So I swear I had so much pushback in my journey because there was so many instances like this where there was only one nurse that was working on my case at that office for that doctor, and she kept getting sick. She kept getting sick for like weeks at a time, and then it was Christmas, and so I had to wait so long just to get medically cleared, and nobody else would answer me but her. So yeah, that happened. So now we're in 2019. I got medically cleared January 10th, 2019. And so after that, contracts. So contracts took a little time too, because with contracts, you have to really look at everything. You got to make sure you look at it like 12 times, read it over and over and over and over and over again. Because there's so many little details in there you got to make sure, you're okay with, or you're comfortable with, or, everything is you just got to make sure it's fine with you. There's nothing wrong that you can really say. He can, of course, he or she can deny things you ask for, but there's nothing wrong with asking. And I love that my lawyer always said, anything you have a problem with, anything you want to say, we can always put it in there. The worst thing they can do is deny it, honestly. So I finally got my contracts January 11th, the first draft or whatever. And so I got them finalized. Get this. I got them finalized March 7th, 2019. It took so long to get contracts done. And it was like small little changes that kept stopping us too. Like the wording of some things is crazy, but so worth it. And I swear at this point, I was so beyond the fact that I was actually doing this. I was like, oh, it's real. I'm really doing this. I really signed a contract. But I was super happy. So after that, I got my transfer schedule, which I'll show you in the video that I do explaining everything with my transfer. And I got my transfer schedule May 18th, 2019. And I received my medications that you saw in the other video March 20th. And then after that, I started my meds March 22nd. So, yeah. So what I'm really going to stop at is my transfer date. My transfer date was April 11th, 2019. I'm going to stop there only because I want to explain the rest of what's happened up until this point so far in my other videos. But yeah, all together, me starting this journey from this agency and the other one before, it's 12 months. 12 months. That's dedication. And I've heard videos of people saying they've had 12 months of waiting even to get to transfer, and I thought it was insane until I did it. So if you really want to do this, you got to be dedicated, and it really has to be in your heart to want to do this. It can't be about money. It can't be about, being selfish, and just wanting to do this as a quick thing. You got to really want this and be determined, and I am. So, yeah. So last thing I want to say is for those people who are interested in looking into surrogacy, and want people to talk to about it, and besides me, you can always ask me questions, but they want other people to talk to in groups and stuff. There are forums, and there's one in Baby Center, the website Baby Center. If you go to community and you type in all things surrogacy, spaces between all those, there's a whole group there, and there's people sharing their stories, where they are right now, what's happened so far. There's a lot of people who just had babies and they're explaining what happened, or they're going over contracts. IPs are in there too. It's not just surrogates. There's intended parents giving their opinions. It's really cool. Besides that, on Facebook, and I'm going to try to tie in some pictures at some point in the video of these specific names. There's Facebook groups. You have to get added into them, so you have to they ask you a few questions just to make sure you're not going to be someone in there for no reason. But there's certain names of groups. There's the Surrogacy Group for Surrogates and IPs, My Surrogacy Journey, Surrogacy Support, Intended Parents and Surrogates, surrogate compensation discussion, surrogacy agency reviews, U.S. only, that's a whole thing, and Surrogate Mothers United, My Surrogacy Journey. There's 2 of those, so you probably can find either one. And there's another one, Jessica's Surrogacy Journey. There are so many beautiful stories in these forums. I would just say though, when you go into these forums, make sure before you ask certain questions or questions in general, you use the search bar on Facebook, because there's a lot of things that have already been answered. And that's usually why people get mad sometimes when you make a chat asking the same question that's been asked like 100,000 times, because if you use the search bar, you can literally find as much information as far as medication, as far as contracts, as far as gifts for IPs or surrogates. There's so many people who have already talked about so much that you can just search it. You don't have to ask again, you know. So just a note to you guys, because I've done it and people be mad. So, but for the most part, it's really, really good and helpful. I really like all things surrogacy as well, and Baby Center. I really, really like them. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I would love any comments, anything you want to ask. I'm pretty open. I talk a lot, as you can see. But thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And next video, I'm going to be talking most likely about... I'm going to probably show you my psychological evaluation paper, like of all the questions, or read some off, and I'm gonna explain how my medical screening went and put a few videos in there or whatever, then transfer videos. So stay tuned. Bye guys.